Hello there and welcome to the planning meeting dated the 12th of February. At present time we are in quorum 8, so we're going to adjourn for till 4:10 and hopefully we'll resume the meeting then.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Thank you very much and welcome to the reconvene planning meeting in the twilight zone at 4 p.m. I would say. On Thursday, the 12th of February, 2026. The first item on the agenda is, before we do the first item on the agenda, let's do some housekeeping rules and I'll pass it over to my Democratic officer to do that.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I think members will be well aware by now that the meeting is being recorded and the recording will be archived for future viewing. Please only use the chat function for any technical issues that wish to raise to the Democrat officers, and obviously just make sure your phones are turned off and all chat should be raised verbally. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Gareth, for that. And we now go on to the agenda proper. Under part 1, first of all, item is apologies for absence. I got Councillor Neil Thomas, who's the chair. So I'm Mark Wilson, under vice chair, acting on behalf of him. And then we also got Councillors Wendy Gilligan, Councillor Ian Buckley, Councillor Christine Cave. Have you got any more?
That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Unless members of the committee have any apologies.
Thank you very much. We're now moving on to the next item on the agenda. This is minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of January. I'm happy to sign them as a true record. Is anyone like to second that?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hodges. Okay, moving on now to number 3, declarations of interest. Do we have any? I do not think we have. So we're moving on now to building regulations, applications and other builder control. Okay, are we happy that I note that?
Happy to note, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hodges. Number 5 is plan application to term director under delegated powers. I'm happy to note those. And
Happy to second, Chair, yeah.
Thank you very much. On appeals, I should say. Have we got any appeals?
Thank you, Chair. There's just notification of one appeal received in the report. There's no reports with outcomes of recent appeals. We have had one recently relating to Barron's Court in Penarth, but I think that came after this would have been prepared. I don't think that is included in the statistics in the report. That was dismissed, so we're up towards 80% in terms of all appeals won, but we'll report that one next time, Chair.
Excellent, and I think 80% is well done to the officers, and I think that's a really good defence. And thank you, so I'm happy to note that. And anyone to second that? Councillor Hodges, thank you very much.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much. And we're now going on to trees. Do we have any reports on trees at all? Are we happy to note trees? Yep, thank you very much. And we're now going on to the delegated list. Okay, and that's okay. And we're now going on to plan applications. The first one is 2025/00807. It's a full application for Barry Power Station. Over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Chair. UK to share, Reece. Thanks. Thank you, Chair. Yes, this application seeks full planning permission for a 50 megawatt long duration energy storage facility with associated equipment access, drainage infrastructure and engineering works. The application relates to the former Barry Power Station site, and it will be accessed from Hayes Road at the eastern boundary of the site. The proposal lies within the existing employment site identified as the chemical complex in policy MD16 of the Council's adopted local development plan. The site also lies within flood zones 2 and 3 as defined by the flood map for planning and within the health and safety executive middle and outer zones. There is an archaeological record to the west of the site identified as Sully Coin Hoard. If we could move on to the next slide, please. Aerial photo there just shows the site in the context of Sully Moors Road and the remainder of the chemical complex to the north. Next slide, please, Reece. Thanks. So this slide shows the layout of the development, which would cover approximately 2.2 hectares, with battery containers laid out in blocks of 4 rows and stacked 3 high. Could you just pop to the next slide, Reece, so we can see? There we go. So stacked 3 high, with each block measuring approximately 11 metres wide by 6 metres long by just under 8 metres high, and that's 8 metres high to the top of the top block, not 8 metres per unit. The proposals also include supporting equipment, including transformers, welfare facilities, substation and power conversion system. In addition, the proposals include a number of biodiversity and green infrastructure enhancements on land within the applicant's ownership on the other side of Sully Moors Road. Could we just pop back a couple of slides, please, Reece? And maybe, yeah, on the land to the east. That's edged in blue on the site plan in the officer's report. So the officer's report sets out the key issues in respect of the development. In terms of the principle, the proposal lies within an existing employment site under policy MD16 of the LDP. This policy does allow for sui generis uses such as this where they do not materially change the overall nature of the wider employment site. And furthermore, as the report notes, the site was previously occupied for another sui generis use in the form of the power station. National and local policies are explicitly supportive of this kind of development, and obviously renewable energy schemes, the type of which this proposal would support. So in summary, it's considered that the development is policy compliant in those regards and acceptable in a location of this nature. The development is clearly very industrial in nature, but it is considered by officers to be of a scale and appearance that is entirely appropriate in this industrial complex, and there would not be significant wider visual impacts from outside the site. In terms of flood risk, as I mentioned, it is identified as being in a flood risk area on the flood map, but the development is not classed as highly vulnerable development, and the proposal has been supported by a flood consequences assessment, which has modelled the kind of specific impacts, and that's demonstrated that the development itself would not be at unacceptable flood risk, and there would not be unacceptable impacts on flood risk outside of the site. So it's considered to comply with Technical Advice Note 15 and the Council's policies on such matters, and Natural Resources Wales have raised no objection in this regard. As noted in the report, there are no objections from shared regulatory services, subject to the conditions in the report relating to contamination investigation and mitigation and post-operation noise monitoring. Highways impacts are generally going to be limited to the construction phase, and there are conditions recommended in relation to a construction traffic management plan, which will include details of timings and routes, and also road condition surveys to make sure that any damage caused by heavy vehicles relating to the construction of this is made good afterwards. The report notes that the development involves the use of vanadium redox flow batteries, which would be installed in accordance with the recommended safety distances between units, and these generally don't suffer from the thermal runaway issues that can be associated with lithium-ion batteries, and the fire service are comfortable with this and haven't objected to the application. And then the last issue I've just got a note on here is relation to biodiversity and green infrastructure. As I noted, the land across the road is for ecological enhancement and mitigation, and this includes enhancement of retained hedgerows with native species, wildflower planting, native tree planting, bird and bat boxes, and it's considered that this is proportionate to the nature and size of the development. The last note, just to draw members' attention to, is there has been a minor omission in the form of one of the Dura Cymru Welsh Water conditions. So I would recommend that an additional condition 16 be added as follows. No surface water and or land drainage shall be allowed to connect directly or indirectly with the public sewerage network. That's a fairly standard condition that Welsh Water ask for. And the reason would be to prevent hydraulic overloading of the public sewerage system, to protect the health and safety of existing residents, and to ensure no pollution or detriment to the environment, and to comply with policy MD7 of the LDP. I'll leave it there, Chair. I'd be happy to answer any queries. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ian, for that presentation. Over to members now. Does anyone? Yeah, Councillor Payne first. Councillor Payne.
and 67, and they're both in.
Sorry, Councillor Payne. Could you start again? Because we only heard the word 67. So if you could start.
67. So, yeah, they're in relation to page 66 and 67.
Fine.
And there are two things, really. One is about the switch from lithium to vanadium batteries, which you've just said. And it says there is no thermal runaway, but and there are no risks associated with it. And I'm concerned that there are risks associated with it. And the second thing, the second part of that, which is on page 67, is around the no need for an environmental risk assessment. But as we know, there is housing, Sully End and Caddick Ward End as well. So those are my concerns. Why no EIA? And I'm not convinced that there is no risk. South Wales Fire Service have looked at it, but I'm not convinced there's no risk. So I wanted to kind of delve into that a little bit, please.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Thank
Helen.
you.
Helen, what I will do, I will bring in Ian when we got more questions, because we've got another speaker. Councillor Ernest.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. My question is whether there's likely to be any electrical interference from a battery store. We've all heard of television interference, TVI, as it's known in the industry. This electromagnetic interference from a substantial bank of batteries, which could possibly radiate electromagnetic signals within the vicinity. By vicinity, that could mean possibly up to half a mile or so. Could we have some assurances on that point, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ian, in the chamber.
Thanks, Chair.
Sorry, different Ian, I think. Sorry, Ian, Simon Roy.
Just giving everybody a moment to put their headsets on. Sorry, there are 3 Ians present in the meeting, 2 of us present in the chamber, so referring over to Ian can cause some complication here tonight. Thank you. I have a question which is fairly similar to the ones asked by Councillor Payne, which is this difference between the vanadium and the lithium ion batteries. There are a number of applications which have been similar to this, which have come before us recently, such as the one on Moyles Farm, and there've been several, I'm sure, also which are going to be coming on the horizon. I've seen something about new battery energy storage in St Athan recently, which is probably going to come before us soon. I understand that this comes before us because of the scale and the nature of the application. We're talking about 50 megawatts. I understand that some can be substantially larger. So the 2 factors are whether Ian Robinson can help us to understand the technical matters, because we as lay people don't understand this fully, and also the matter of what exactly is the limit in terms of the scale that is suitable to bring in front of the committee, or is it simply that it's before us because it's battery storage? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Ian Johnson, and thank you for the reminder about there's many Ians around. Okay, I normally go to meetings, there's plenty of Marks, and I'm quite privileged there's only 1 Mark around at the moment. So perhaps if I haven't got anyone else indicating, I know we've got some legacy hands, so if Councillor Payne and Councillor Ernie could drop their hands, I would appreciate that. If you can, yeah, thank you very much. If you want to respond now, Ian, that'd be great. Ian Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of thermal runaway, I mean, I'm sorry, I wouldn't profess to be an expert on the technology between the two, but it is my understanding, and what I'm comfortable with, is that it's industry recognised as being a fundamentally less problematic technology than lithium-ion batteries, and I've got no reason to doubt that. I'm happy to take the advice of the fire service, and I'm happy with what the application submits in terms of the appropriateness of the vanadium technology. I'm sorry, I can't add any more than that. It's a very technical matter, but I don't think that we have any reason to fear that it's fundamentally problematic in that way. In terms of EIA, it's been screened. EIA is for very significant development. It's generally regarded as being development of more than local significance, almost regional significance, and there are no identified or evidenced complex or significant environmental impacts resulting from this. It's not energy generating, it's just energy storage, so we don't feel there are significant environmental impacts resulting from the development. I've got Councillor Ernest's questions then. What was Councillor? Sorry, it was interference. That's right. Interference. Thank you. So these developments have to comply with EMI mandatory standards to limit that. So there are, again, it's very technical in detail, but there are certain things within these kinds of developments which, if unregulated and if not meeting the necessary standards, could potentially cause interference. But there are mandatory industry regulations that these developments are governed by, and that the planning process doesn't need to double up on those standards. So that will be covered. In terms of the scale of the development, our scheme of delegation now is that all major applications come to a planning committee. So the site area here is over 2 hectares, which is a major. If we had battery storage on a site like this, which is under 1 hectare, so not a major, then potentially it could be delegated. But this one is because of the size of the site.
Thank you very much. I got Councillor Ernest. I think he wants to come back. Councillor Ernest?
Yeah, Chairman, I just wanted to clarify a point. I mean, this is, one of very few of these applications that we've had. We're going to get substantially larger ones when it comes down to the former site of Bridgend, which is right on our boundary, where there's a massive application either in or probably about to go in. And what I'm concerned about when I talk about electromagnetic interference, basically that's where there's the potential for causing interference to other users of the radio spectrum, whether that be radio, television, point-to-point broadcasting, that type of thing. So, I mean, I'm happy to take Ian's assurances, but I just want to flag up that this is something that not only this council, but every council across the country needs to be aware of, because the levels of EMI electromagnetic interference have risen substantially over the years and have started to cause major problems for users of low power equipment that are very susceptible to interference, particularly if they're made, shall we say, overseas in foreign countries. I'll leave it at that, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Has anyone else got any comments to make? I don't think I've seen any indication. Can we move now to the actual, I'd like to move officer's recommendation here. Would anyone like to second that?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much, Nick. I don't have anyone indicates wants to speak. I don't think we need a vote on that. Oh yeah, we second that. We second that by Nick Hodges, and I proposed it. All right, so we move to the next item on the agenda. Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is 2024/0065554 application, One Vale Business Park. Over to you. Who's doing that? It's your Liam.
Thank you,
doing
Chair.
that. Thank you.
Yes, I'll do this one. Yeah, if we can just go through the next slide, and then there we go. So this application relates to One Vale Business Park in Llandau. The application before you seeks planning permission for the construction of 2 industrial buildings for B2, B8 business uses. Just to start from the start here, there is a minor typographical error in the report insofar that there's reference to 8 units within the 2 buildings. However, the applicant, during the course of the application, did amend the application to contain 7 units, which is reflected in the most recent plans, which I'll come on to shortly. So just reflecting that alteration, it's a less number of units across the 2 buildings. So other works as part of the application involve access, parking and landscaping. So in terms of the site itself, the site, as you can see there in terms of the red line, in terms of context, so it's within an allocated employment area. It is surrounded by established industrial units. And the proposal, the makeup of it essentially is for 2 blocks, as you can see laid out there along the boundaries of the site. Block A at the top is it will contain 2 units, and that's the one in terms of original plan showed it would contain 3. It will actually contain 2 units. Total footprint area of approximately 1,050 square meters, with an eaves height of 6.45 meters and a ridge height of 7.45 meters. Block B then is a proposal for 5 units. Total footprint area there of that is 1,080 square meters with an eaves of 8.5 meters and a ridge of 9.5 meters. As you can probably make out from the drawing there are parking spaces then surrounding the site, 28 spaces in total with 6 bicycle stands and new vehicular access there, making your way in from the sort of the bottom end of the site to the south, and some soft landscaping as well. So in terms of context, as you can see, there is essentially on an industrial land, so it's compatible with the established character and would continue the orderly expansion of the Vale Business Park. If you go into the next slide, we'll get sort of a general overview, bird's eye of the site. So if we just note the existing building there to the south, if you're looking at the right-hand image, the site is the sort of hardcore area to the left of that, which you can just make out there on the right-hand side, well, the left-hand side of the right photo. In terms of the application itself, consultation and representations, there's been no objections from neighbouring properties, no public representations received following consultation, and site and press notices. All statutory consultees, including those of the Highway Authority, drainage officers, ecology, Welsh Water, NRW, SRS and South Wales Police, they either raise no objection or request suitable planning conditions. During the course of the application, the Highway Authority initially raised some concerns about access, visibility and swept paths, but following amended plans, they confirmed no objection subject to visibility display conditions. We just move through the slides, which is sort of a blown up image there of the proposed siting of these units. And then if we go through, so there's the 2 units in the block A, which is towards the top of the site. If we continue going through the slides, we've got, so that's the elevations, the general form is of an industrial character. The next slide should give us the makeup of the sort of block B, then if you like, the block to the south. So in terms of planning considerations, principle of development, as I sort of touched on there you go, you've got the access there into the site as well with the visibility display shown. So in terms of the principle of development, as I mentioned, it's on an industrial employment use site, and the policies within the local development plan, this is protected for employment growth. So essentially it aligns with the local development plan and national policy, which promotes that employment growth on established sites. Design and visual impact, the buildings, they are of an appropriate scale, height and obviously of an industrial form consistent with the surrounding estate. Materials, layout and landscaping measures. The landscaping measures will provide for green infrastructure improvements through a native hedgerow along the boundaries of the site. And the design and visual impacts essentially are acceptable in this context. In terms of amenity, the nearest residential property is approximately, well, over 300 metres away, And again, given the industrial context, there are no issues there to raise from a neighbouring amenity perspective, particularly in terms of any noise, odour or disturbance. Highways and parking provision meets the SPG standards. As I mentioned earlier, there was discussion with highway officers over swept path analysis, and that demonstrates there's safe access for HGVs and egress, and then 25-metre visibility displays are acceptable in this 20-mile-an-hour environment. In terms of drainage, the site lies in dam zone A, which is a very low flood risk area, and foul water will connect to existing private system. Surface water will also be addressed by the SAB process with infiltration subject to testing. Consideration around contamination, obviously given the historic use of the site, a full suite of contamination conditions is recommended, including investigation, remediation and verification. And then in terms of ecology and green infrastructure, initially during the course of the application there were some concerns around the lack of information, so the applicant submitted an updated preliminary ecology assessment and a green infrastructure statement. And the measures which you can make out of this plan that are shown on the screen now in terms of habitat plan post works. The measures include native planting, bat and bird boxes, hedgehog houses and biodiversity enhancement. So essentially delivering a net gain or enhancement at the site. In terms of Section 106 and viability, ordinarily contributions would be sought for matters including sustainable transport, training, open space and public art. However, following the submission of viability evidence during the course of the application, officers are satisfied that the scheme cannot provide a full financial contribution without undermining the deliverability of the scheme. Some on-site open space will be secured by condition, and that's referenced as condition 8 in your papers. So essentially, to summarise, the proposal complies with relevant LDP policies and national guidance, poses no unacceptable impacts and provides for new modern employment space within what is established business park. So the recommendation is to approve subject to conditions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liam. And now I'm going to offer it open to the members of the committee. And before I do that, there might be one non-member of the committee. Councillor John, do you want to say anything on this? I don't know. Yes.
No,
Councillor.
nothing at all. Nothing at all, Mark. Acceptable.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other member would like to speak? Councillor Stallard.
Hi. I'm just curious, really. Do we know what the units are going to be used for?
Okay. As anyone else wants to speak before I bring in on Liam on that point? Okay, Liam.
Through you, Chair, no, we don't have any information on prospective occupiers, but essentially it would be any occupier within the B2, B8 use classes that would be acceptable. So we're approving a B2 and B8 use class. It may be that the applicant will market the site and go out for a suitable occupier of the buildings.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other member? It seems that we don't. Can I move to officers' recommendations, and I'd like to move them? Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
I got Helen Payne on the line, or she was, but I think Councillor Hodges has beaten Councillor Payne to that. All right then, so we'd like to move that. I don't have anyone who wants to speak against this, so I move this. Okay. I don't think we have any part 2 matters or any other matters which are urgent under part 1, so I'd like to close the meeting. So thank you all.